So helo a croeso pawb I Sgwrs 4, Trawsnewid. So hello everyone and welcome to the 4th talk we've done with the Transition exhibition. Tonight we've got 3 instead of the 4 that was advertised because one of the panellists wasn't able to attend in the end. So just to give you an information in case anybody's new, the Transition is the exhibition that we've done this year for our members, and we do one every year, and where people are asked to respond to a brief or to a theme, and this year it was transition, and this is our 4th and final talk that's coincided with the exhibition, but we are hoping to carry on doing things or doing talks over the next couple of months with some of our other members who didn't take part in the exhibition, so do keep an eye out for them. So we're going to be doing it through alphabetically ordered through first names. So Anna, Higson, and Gwen Vaughan and Laura Cameron. So we're going to start with Anna. And Anna's got 3 pieces in the exhibition, which are photograph pieces of her time in Mexico. So again, if you want to ask any questions or make any comments, you can do any time throughout the talk and I'll ask the questions to Anna at the end. Okay, so I'll hand you over to Anna, if you're ready, Anna.
Hi guys. Okay, I'm just going to share the screen. So at the moment, I've mainly been working with photography. I've got a huge passion for photography, mixed media, publications, and especially graphics too. This comes from previous courses that I've been on. So this hopefully will be quite apparent in the work that I'm currently doing too. So in the Transition exhibition, I've got 3 photographs. They should be on your screen now. Each 3 of them are called Street Decay. I class all 3 of them as a collage. So they're all taken in different areas in Mexico. I think the first 2 are around the Mexico City area and the last one was in the Yucatan. So if you pop to the left-hand side of your screen, that's what I would class as the first one. What I really love about this image is the fact that there's actually one campaign. So all these posters are different campaigns, advertising campaigns, and they've all kind of ripped and torn within different weather or people rubbing against them. So there's actually one campaign that's throughout that image, which is the Mad Factory campaign. I don't know whether you can kind of see it. And by the fact that it is kind of throughout the image, the colours, this kind of like orangey yellow and this kind of greeny colour, greeny blue, kind of creates more of a marriage in the image because it is quite chaotic. So I really like that aspect about it. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see that. So you can see the 2 Mad Factory posters there. I also really like the fact that you've lost the mad side on the one on the left, and then you've lost the factory through decay on the one on the right. And then what you may spot right in the middle is actually a really random picture of like a kitchen table. So if I like zoom in again, you can kind of see there's like some nachos in the middle, some sauces, there's like a plate of food on an old tablecloth. I just love how random a lot of the imagery is on these billboards. They're all kind of torn in the most beautiful way. And yeah, that's kind of what draws me to it. So if I go on to the second one, what I really like about this one is the fact how, because it's on corrugated metal, I really like how that's also become a huge part of the image. The paper, this kind of like the final poster, which is kind of pinky, that almost looks like latex or kind of plasticky because of how it's kind of pulled against the metal in the background. So I really like that aspect too. If I zoom into it, this showcases how, again, again, how much I love the fact that it's just like random imagery next to each other. So you have the little burger over there, you've got a little present, you've even got a man on a bike somewhere, and then you've got behind it, which is another campaign, which I think is kind of like a musician or an event. You've got two ladies that are very glammed up, and then obviously you can see the font with the E there. But I just love how you've got these like two very random different advertisement campaigns, and you wouldn't see them together like this. And the fact that, again, they're kind of tearing away to reveal these different campaigns. And then the third one that's on here is a lot more pared back, a lot less going on. This was in the Yucatan, and I think it was actually to board up a window. So they've pretty much used anything they have to make it weather tight. But I really love the three pieces of wood on the left-hand side, the font going in different directions upside down, and that they're all cut up, but you can still see through it the tablecloth that they've used, this kind of orangey tablecloth that's bleached out. I also really love this where the tablecloth is stretched, and it's almost like a stretch mark that it's like bleached into the tablecloth there. I just think it's really nice texturally. Yeah, and I like how more pared back it is than the other two, but then it is very much along the same lines with playing with graphics and illustrations and decaying textures. I just think they all work really well together. So then I wanted to show you on the left of the image is actually my college work from years ago when I was, how old are you in college? Like 16, I think. I can't even remember how old you are in college, but I hadn't realized until doing this presentation that the photographs I'm actually taking at the moment are so close to what I was really inspired by back then, which was layers of pictures and paper, and then I would graffiti on top of them and then paint and then repeat the process. And I just think it's quite funny how I hadn't realized that taking this photo, what had drawn me to it, the fact that how inspired I am by those kind of layers and textures. So that's why I wanted to show you that. I wanted to show you some more photos. These are also ones that I've taken in Mexico. I really like capturing people, especially moments in things such as carnivals and festivals, which is such a popular thing in Mexico. What I do try and capture is a sense of a moment, but also I'd like the person to be able to visualize where that person might be moving next, where he might be looking next, so that they can hopefully have a slight experience to what I had as well without even being there. And I think that these two images do that. Yeah, so that's those two. That's the same with these two as well. It's very much capturing a moment. I also like how close you feel to these people, because you genuinely feel like you're either right in front of him, such as the guy with the pink hair, and then the guy with the hat, you feel like you're right behind, looking up, watching him take it off. I just really love how you can feel so in the moment and so right next to them. And with the guy with the pink hair, it wasn't actually shot that cropped, but I do like going over my imagery and cropping them exactly to where I'd want to make you feel super close. So that's one thing that I really like about the guy with the pink hair. I also really love the texture on his face. Like, I think, again, that goes back to the collage side of me. These are another two images. This is another thing that I really like to replicate is kind of creating a scene, a mood. The one with the car is one that I had previously shown in the Cairn exhibition, the photography one before transition exhibition. I think that it reminds me a lot of a scene in a movie. I remember I was walking to dinner at this point, and I remember glancing at it, and I saw the texture of the roof of the car first. That's what first drew me to it. And then I saw all the stickers on the window and all the different numbers and types. I thought, oh, it looks amazing. And then I realized, obviously it was golden hour and that the sun was shining straight through to the speed dial at the front of the car. And I remember looking at it thinking like how kind of romantic it looked. But I did walk past and then I ran straight back and I took a photo. But I remember at that moment feeling kind of like I'd been dropped into a movie scene. And again, that photograph also shows the decay side of things, the collage side of things with all those different stickers. It is definitely a pattern that I find a lot in my work. I also find it in the second image on here, which is another guy with the hat. I find that to look a lot like a collage too. There's actually 4 people in that picture. And I love the fact that, again, this area, which was called Trawsnewid, they had this huge festival and there was hundreds of these guys with these hats on, with all these beads swooshing around, and they had all these silk scarves on. And it was crazy. There was so much noise, so much movement. They were all doing the same dance. There's just one dance where they kind of pivot. And it was the most surreal experience. But what I love about this image is that you feel like you're right behind them, kind of almost like their shadow or like a ghost experience in it. It looks quite a surreal image through the lighting and the fluffiness of the lace and the fluff on his coat there. It just looks really kind of theatrical and dreamlike. So that's what I really love about that image. These two are similar. They also remind me of like a scene in a movie, just capturing a moment. So the first one was also in the photography exhibition at Cairn. It almost looks like I've set that scene up, but I was just like to go off in certain villages in Mexico with my camera for a couple of hours and just walk down the local streets and just really capture people's gardens. I mean, they just have, it looks so stylized, but that's the last thing that they were thinking about. It just looks so pretty. The white and the red and a little bit of black and blue. It could be anything. Like when my brother saw it, it reminded him of kind of like a funeral or even like a wedding or a celebration. It could be so many things, but it was just all their outside furniture in one corner, basically. But it just looks so pretty. And then the second one, I was just walking through the street, and I remember the bin cart grabbing my eye, because I was like, wow, look at the texture on that. I just thought it was pretty crazy. So I stepped back, and then I realized the two colors of the wall behind it, the two men talking with him holding his brush, and it just looked really romantic and really like 100% just a moment. And I remember after taking that photo kind of smiling, because you feel like you've discovered something. When sometimes when you take photos, you kind of feel that instant, I discovered that, I captured that, and it's a really nice feeling. This again is another one that I quite like. What I like about this image is that it's kind of like a reverse of an actual house. So they're actually sat outside. The two doors look like windows, and they're looking in to the building, whereas usually they would be looking out to the garden. And And obviously it was like a vintage shop in Mexico. So the setting outside is supposed to look like a living room because they're supposed to be selling a living room. So it just looked like so amazing. The velvet, the gold, the reflections, the red wall, and then these two Mexican people just talking, which is another thing that I realized afterwards was like this one and the previous image with the two guys talking in front of the bin cart. I'm actually drawn to people kind of communicating. It happens a lot in Mexico. People just sit in the street and they just have a good talk. There's a massive sense of community and they know everybody and they have time on their hands to sit down and talk things out. And I think it's something that the UK doesn't have. So I'm drawn to it when I go to places like Mexico because it's really charming to see. And I think that this picture captures that perfectly. And then finally, what I've mainly been looking at in photography recently is shapes, reflections, like shadows and colors. Like I've always been drawn to color. A lot of my friends know me as just being obsessed with extremely colorful things. And there's one area in Mexico called Holbox, which is a little island. And by the sea, it's become really touristy. But if you take a little trip into where the locals live, their houses are just crazy. It's just like there's so much color. Even like the tiles that kind of look like ombre in the third image, and the really nice vivid yellow with that blue, and then in the middle one, the pillar in the middle, and the fact that every different angle of concrete in most of them are different colors, and the random objects like the frog. I can't help but photograph them. And once I've walked around and photographed it, I feel like I've genuinely really achieved something. It's just so nice to do, so rewarding. And then finally was this image, which is something that I'm hoping to do more of soon. It goes back to the collaging and mixed media. This is something that I did in the summer using the photographs that I've taken in Mexico and drawings and developing them further. And I'm hoping to do it, rather than do it digitally, to do it more hands-on, but I'm really looking forward to using mixed media to do that thing in the future. So hopefully in the winter, this is what I'm going to delve into a little bit more. So yeah.
Thank you, Anna. That was really interesting. And it's nice to see, obviously I've seen some of those photos from the exhibitions, as you said, but there's some really nice photos there that got great composition, and the colour is obviously, as you say, a really big draw for you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So just to say, we've had a few comments, so I'll read them out to you and a few questions. And then just to remind people that are watching, again, if you've got any questions or if you want to make some comments, as well as the panellists, please just ask away. So we've got Julie's said that there's some lovely light when you were showing the one with the car, especially with that one. She said that one, and that's a stunning photo. And then we've got a few of the people said that they're stunning photographs. So from Bex, and one's from Lodi Roberts just come in saying beautiful photographs, and then Carly, I think, says great photos. And then somebody's asked where in Mexico. So I don't know if you want to give them a list.
Okay, it was quite a few places. I travel there with my brother because we both do research in Mexico because we're in a Mexican restaurant, which gives us a good excuse to go. So we usually just rent a car and travel right round. The main places are around Mexico City, Oaxaca City and Oaxacan coast, and then the whole of the Yucatan as well. I say that the most colourful place is definitely the Yucatan. You could just genuinely just walk around with a camera all day and be the happiest human alive.
Thank you, Anna. And I think that's all we've got at the moment. I don't know if anybody's got anything else. Do either of the panelists want to ask questions or say anything before we move on?
It's not really a question, but just to say I love your photos. I love colour, and that'll become apparent in my talk as well, but I really drawn some, and I love your the little moments you're capturing, especially the people that were outside, inside, just sitting around. Fantastic photo, and obviously you've got a real eye for seeing those details and going, I've got to get that photo now. But yeah, they're beautiful. So, and it was really interesting talk to yeah, because you can see the photos and appreciate them, but it is much more lovely to have the background filled in a bit. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Anna. Diolch yn fawr. And thank you, Laura, for your contribution. Okay, so again, if you've got any more questions or any more comments regarding Anna's work, you can ask away during the next couple of presentations and we can ask at the end. But now we're moving on to Gwen. So Gwen Vaughan has got 4 small painting pieces in the exhibition. So I will pass you over to Gwen to do her bit.
Hi everyone. Well, Manna's kindly said she would put up the pictures for me. So could you put the first one up, please? Okay. Well, I suppose I'd just like to say, first of all, that it's not that easy to talk about my work because it's abstract, and you know, there's not a lot of narrative to it, except for the fact that I lived for a long time next to a woodland, and that's kind of the basis of all my work has come from that experience of living there. Yeah, but because there's not much narrative, I thought I would begin with looking at just a few earlier pieces to like give a bit of background to the works that are in Caen. So could you go to the next picture, please? Right, so this is based on tetrahedrons. Actually, what I meant to say with the first picture that I'm sort of I work a lot with patterns, and that they're all they're found patterns, and I get them from various sources. Like, for instance, one I use a lot comes from a maths website, and so it's generally geometry, some music, and a bit of like number sequences. But yeah, it's more geometry, mainly geometry. So okay, so could we go to the next one? Okay, so this is the one that's based on tetrahedrons, and the source for this is this maths website I was saying, and they had their it was like a column of tetrahedrons which they'd animated so that it revolved, it rotated, and it was drawing. You know, tetrahedrons are like 3-dimensional shapes which are mainly sort of triangular. Anyway, they had these columns, and the thing was, as they rotated, you could see all the different angles that they went through, and you could pause it anywhere. So I would just pause the image and then literally just trace the pattern off the screen onto strips of acetate. And so then I'd end up with all these acetate strips, and I would just like shuffle them about and arrange them together so that they form a sort of net. And so that the white pattern you can see on the surface, that's this sort of the tetrahedron shapes, and then that's overlaid onto a grid, which is just drawn with coloured pencils. And there are actually some music patterns. They're not so easy to see, they're just little grey horizontal lines, and that's the music patterns. Yeah, okay, so that's that one. So could we have the next one, please? So this is tetrahedrons again. This one never actually got made into a painting. It's kind of like a precursor to a painting. So these are like the original acetate strips, which are just sellotaped together, again in this sort of net thing. And then the image behind is just, well, they're photographed against a photocopy of an earlier painting of mine. So these pictures date from about, I don't know, five years ago. So then the next one, yeah, this is a fairly recent one. And this is where I'm sort of trying to calm. I'm looking for a bit of calm and sort of equilibrium in this. But it's actually, the background is an older painting, the little yellow marks on the right and the left. They're like some of these like little number sequence things. And then the yellow blob is one of these geometric shapes, which is taken from the earlier tetrahedron pieces. So that's the yellow, that's the original picture. And then on top of that, I've laid these cutout grey shapes. You know, again, they're like sort of angled and things. And then the red rectangle, and then the two grids get laid on top last. So it's just one grid done in biro and one in white paint. So yeah, that's that one. So the next one, please. Yeah, this one is up in Cairn. So again, it's the grey sort of cutout shape on the right with a few angles in it. They're actually the shapes that are left when I'd cut out other tetrahedron shapes, and it's kind of the blank that's left after I've cut them out. Yeah, so it's the grey shape on the right and the grid on the left, and with this I've just tried to, it's a bit more painterly, the green on the top and the dark grey at the back. I've just sort of tried to loosen up a bit in that one. Yeah, so the next one, please. This is in Cairn as well, but it's kind of a different method. So with this one, I'm using a chance method. It's kind of like to just introduce a bit more randomness into it. And so I just have two packs of cards with numbers on, and I, sort of shuffled, and I just take a number from each pack, and then those two numbers give either end of the pencil lines, in all the different directions. So I end up with those random lines, and then I've just picked out some of the lines with like a yellow tape, and yeah, that's that one. And then there's another that's based on the same chance method, but it's got a bit more colour. And then the last one, yeah, that's the other one that's at Cairn, and Well, I think I've just sort of gone for the calm, the sort of equilibrium feeling in that one. So I don't know, these strange times that we're in, it's I suppose I feel like just calming myself down a bit, really, or something, and then a bit of colour. Yeah, so that's it, really. Yeah.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you very much. Really, really interesting. Again, I've used to your work quite a bit, but it's still really nice to know the method behind it, as it were, similar to Anna's work, and seeing how you build on the work and stuff as well. And I know that you're always developing them as well. Every time I see you've got a sort of different direction.
Yeah, they always.
Thank you. So we've had a few comments. So we've had one saying that they love the work. Thank you. And then we've had one from Susan Williams saying, peaceful and calm work.
Oh, good.
So I don't know if anybody's got any more comments or questions they want to say to Gwen. Oh, we got one from Peter here. So I'll get into that one. So it says, you mentioned living by a woodland and it being significant, but the work is embedded in geometry and maths. Can you mention how you see the two in your work, please?
Yeah, well, like I say, I lived for quite a long time by this woodland. It's in Denbighshire. And I got really fascinated by all the patterns of the leaves, you know, the plants and all around. And I had a phase of doing, drawing, you know, the leaves and mosses and ferns and things. And these drawings became more and more detailed. And until eventually I was sort of wondering what lay behind, what I could actually see, because I was doing such like close-up drawings. And yeah, so I was wondering, you know, what I, you know, yeah, what I couldn't see. And around about that time, there was a book going around called The Tao of Physics. You know, I don't know if you heard like Taoism. And so it was actually like an introduction to physics for lay people. But I was absolutely fascinated by this book. And well, basically what it boils down to is the language of physics is geometry and maths. And so that was what drew me into geometry. And yeah, that was it, really. Yeah.
Thank you. And then we've had another question asking, how long do they take you as a rule?
Yeah, well, quite a long time. Well, I guess actually I have an awful lot of failures. I try a lot and an awful lot don't work out. So I really like doing all the sort of detailed drawing work, you know, and with those tetrahedrons and the grids, because I do find it sort of calming. So, but yeah, it's they're quite slow to produce. Yeah.
Do you take, when you say slow, are they like months or years, or do you go back to some of them sometimes and work on them again?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You often do, you know, well, I can't tell till, I don't know, a couple of weeks later whether I want to leave it like that or just change it again. And yeah. The good thing about the acetate is that you can keep changing things around. You know, it's quite flexible. You can just, chop and change around. Yeah.
You can have a good play with it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we've had a couple more questions. One from Bex saying she remembers from a members event you discussed the scale of your work. Do you still have plans staying small, or is large still an idea?
I would, yeah, I'd love to do them larger, and I suppose I just ought to have the courage to have a go. It's quite hard to change your habits. I've got used to working at this small scale, so maybe I should just force myself and do a bigger one, and just see what happens. Yeah, I would like to. Yeah.
Are you talking like huge, or just talking a step up?
Yeah, so like say 4 times as big.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
And then maybe even bigger.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Thank
you.
Give
it a go. Yeah.
And then one from Anthony saying, does the Fibonacci sequence inspire your paintings, or play any role on your practice?
Not Fibonacci, no, but what I have used a lot are prime number sequences. And the only reason for that is that they're unpredictable and they're always random patterns. And like I say, I like to use found patterns, and I like the randomness of the prime numbers. So it just means you don't have to make up the pattern yourself. You can. There's an endless supply of them. Yeah, because they're infinite. They go on forever,
Yeah, so you'll be doing it forever.
Oh. Yeah.
Thank you, Gwen. Any comments from the panelists, or any questions? Or are you guys okay before we move on?
I was going to ask about the maths, physics, but you've definitely covered that. So just a tiny detail, in one of the paintings, you had musical notes in there, and I was wondering if that's something you sneak into a lot of work, or whether it was a one-off. And if you do, is that significant? Is it a certain type of music? Is it something really personal? Or was it just one time for that painting? Or is there something much more significant but kind of hidden away?
Well, no, I have used music a lot in from like scores. Again, I just like finding patterns. But it's to do with the rhythm of yeah. I've used two ways. One's of just purely using the rhythm, that is the length of the notes. And I've also used just the visual pattern of the chords, as it were, on a on a score. But I alter them to the other way. So as you might see chords like vertically on the score, I change it around so that they then become vertical. But it just makes this like sort of changing pattern down the page. And it's more to do with like the sort of counteracting rhythms, so you've got one rhythm of the geometric shapes, and it's kind of a counteracting rhythm of the music.
It's quite a lot packed into quite a small piece, isn't it? So lots of layers. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I really like them. They actually remind me quite a lot of like architecture. Like a lot of the paintings remind me of concrete, and almost like when buildings are being built and the building work's going on around them, and you have like the fences that are exactly like those grids, and you have like flashes of colour and things. And what I really like about the fact is that because they are so small, it looks like, because obviously buildings are very big, something's just all of a sudden been shrank into something really small and pretty. So I really like that about them, that they actually seem like they were originally something huge, but you've shrank them right down.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. So I'll have to try and do it the other way and
yeah,
bigger. Yeah, thanks, Anna.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I think that's it for now. But as I said, if anybody's got any more comments or questions throughout Laura's presentation next, then please do carry on putting them in the chat or in the Q&A. But thank you, Gwen. Diolch yn fawr. That was really interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next we've got Laura Cameron. So Laura's got a piece, a framed crochet piece.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Laura Cameron. I'm a textile artist and I create under my name and also under my brand name, which is Lost in the Wood. So I create soft sculpture, crochet and needle felted pieces. I've called my brand Lost in the Wood because one of my long-standing influences has been like dark fairy tales. So I love stories, I love anything that's got a sort of sinister edge to it. So I'm a self-taught artist, and I've dabbled in lots of different things along the way. And that's probably why I'm always interested in what I see as a kind of artificial distinction between art and crafts. I think textile art in particular suffers from being sort of relegated to a lower status. So I enjoy kind of playfully challenging that by making surprising things in wool. So I'm going to take you, first, this is my piece that Minna couldn't remember because I was joking. So it's called An Assembly of Experience, Growth of a Mould, which is a little bit of a mouthful, to be fair. So that's in the current exhibition. So the idea of this is, I should say, over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, my work has been moving towards being sort of medically inspired. So medical things and microbiology in particular, as this piece shows. So the title is really the idea that as we journey through life, we gather experiences that eventually grow into a kind of colourful, vibrant mass, and we're richer because of it. So this is the progression of ostensibly a crocheted mould, but really as a kind of allegory or simile for life. That's my idea. Okay, so I'm going to take you back about 9 or 10 years. I'm just going to have a quick hurtle through my kind of artistic life. So I started with fake food, and to be honest, that's the entire reason that I got into any kind of art at all. I didn't do any at school. I was pretty hopeless. It wasn't until I moved to Wales and started doing things in my early 30s. So I was quite late to this. And the only reason, I taught myself to crochet and needle felt purely because I wanted to make fake food. That was it. That was my inspiration, fake food. What I really wanted to do was to go to Japan and learn to make that really hyper-realistic resin food. But it was really expensive. I don't think I'd be very good at sculpting. And I couldn't find a course in the UK that did that either. So I thought I'll settle and do non-realistic fake food out of something that's much easier and kind of more tactile. So I taught myself to crochet, making some crocheted toast at first, which is still on the dresser in a toast rack. It's not very good. I should point out these 2 pieces are not my first pieces. So it's my first love, but these are quite recent in the last 2-3 years. So this is a giant crocheted strawberry with my hand for scale, and there's some little naughty needle felting mice poking out, eating it. And then this, the other one is from my crochet cocktail collection. So this is Original Sin. And these were both on display in a gallery last year, a little exhibition based around the idea of feasting. Okay, next, once I kind of mastered crochet enough to want to try and do something a bit more adventurous, I started making fake taxidermy, or woolly dermy, as I coined the phrase for my particular things. Again, these are not early pieces. I started with kind of bunny rabbit heads, but these are 2 of the more recent ones. So there's a boar who's pretty big, and I'm very pleased with his jaws and sharp teeth and tusks, and Medusa with all of her snakes. So I think that's all I want to say that. Yeah, and these also relate to my brand name, Lost in the Wood, because the idea was sort of creatures from stories and myths scurrying around the woods. And you may find them, if you're lucky or very unlucky, down in the dark forests. Okay, so moving on, these are, although not moving on necessarily time-wise, but these are early exhibition pieces. So once I'd been crocheting, I also been discovering needle felting, which is basically sculpting with fleece. It's a sharp barbed needle and fleece. It suits my love of colour. You get all these amazing dyed kind of merino fleeces, and you can make colourful, beautiful things. So Bee Swarm was my first ever exhibition piece, I think, and it was in Oswestry. So my mum and my husband are both beekeepers, so I've always had a lot of bee chat, and I've picked up a lot of details along the way. So bees used to feature quite a lot in my work. And the other one is a needle felted anatomical heart. And I think that was, I can't quite see the date on my screen, but this is an early piece. I think this one was a part of a collaboration with Bex, who's also in Cairn, at the Old Box Gallery. And a fun fact for you, the background to this one is my wedding dress. So I always like this photo because it makes me think about that. And I was really pleased because this heart was actually sold to someone doing a PhD in Utrecht in the Netherlands, because she wanted to buy it to pose it in a very similar way for the front cover of her thesis, which was on cardiac dysfunction. And it's in English for some reason. And she actually sent me a copy of her thesis. So I don't know if you can see that. That's the same heart. And she bought it rather than just ask for the photo and ask for permission on the front cover. It's quite weighty, but it makes me really happy, that sort of thing. Okay, next, I wanted to do something. So I was enjoying the sculpting, but I wanted to do something a little bit bolder, a little bit more anatomical, a little bit sort of more exciting. So I discovered body casting is a thing. And I went on up to Edinburgh to do an intensive course learning how to do it. I didn't want to give up the crochet, so I started incorporating different elements, fusion pieces into my work. So the first one, again, these have been displayed. Life Support went to a couple of places, and they both, National Poisons was in gallery. So the first one, the idea of Life Support is that we all need people to kind of keep us going, to literally kind of, not literally breathe life into us, but figuratively breathe life and energy into us. So I bribed my family and friends, I think friends in this case, to pose and have goo slapped all over their faces. Family were roped in for National Poisons, which is a kind of political piece about social toxins like racism, climate change, other things in there. But really, it was quite a good excuse just to play with slightly sinister bottles and hands. Okay. So this piece, which I'll show you the finished result next, but this was so much fun to make. And if you're Cairn members or Carnarvon locals, you'll recognise possibly all of the people, they're well known around Carnarvon, friends that are posing, putting their hands in pink goo for the fun of it. So I'd asked, so it's a piece called At the Well, which was my biggest installation, well, biggest piece anyway, maybe my only installation, thinking about it, which was in Carnarvon Castle, a beautiful arts event weekend, Castech 02 in 2017. So I will show you that in a second, but basically I made 7 or 8 buckets, crochet buckets, and they are real buckets weighed down with stones. And I asked friends to pose as if they were putting their hand, like grasping a bucket handle. So that was great fun. And this is the result, which is quite a difficult photo to see. This is the best one. It was very dark. There's a little film that exists somewhere which is more enlightening. Basically, so the Well Tower in Carnarvon Castle, you go through a beautiful old creepy door, and you go around a kind of dogleg little passageway, and you get to a well. And this is the main, maybe not the only, but the main well for the castle. So what I wanted to do for this installation was to really kind of echo back to the people that worked, they did all the daily drudgery of getting all the water for everyone else in the castle. So the idea was hands grasping buckets and water arcing, sort of flowing blue crochet here, loops, water arcing from the buckets, and they went back towards the door. And there was a soundscape for this as well, so of running water, sloshing water, buckets being set down, picked up, footsteps coming towards you and retreating. And with the sort of flickering candles, it was really atmospheric. It's one of the things I'm proudest of because it worked so well, thank goodness. There's a lot of work in it, but it was really nice sort of, I love going to other people's things when they're really atmospheric pieces. They're really sort of, there's a proper word for it, but they're all surrounding, they're inclusive, immersive pieces. I love that. So this was my kind of little attempt at that. Okay, and then I've taken quite a shift. I liked the body casting, but I was getting frustrated because it's quite messy. The plaster and the alginate, which is the same as using dental molds, is quite expensive. I needed a studio because my cat was too dangerous to be at home getting covered in plaster and interfering. And I couldn't quite get the finish I wanted on a lot of the pieces. So I kind of returned a bit more to crochet, but with a much more emphasis on science inspired things. And I had a really lovely break in the beginning of 2019 where I had 2 cabinets. I was offered 2 cabinets. Someone needed to fill them. 2 cabinets of art pieces. Nothing gruesome was the brief. Something appropriate, but not, for goodness sake, Laura, not gruesome. That was my friend who knows me well, who was the arts coordinator at the time. Nothing gruesome. So, but medical was fine. So, so this was lovely because it really pushed on my work from just doing a few hearts and a couple of lungs to really doing thinking a lot more and doing a lot more. Like in that picture. Oh, you can see some petri dishes, there's lungs, there's brain. And the next one are blood smear slides, so giant versions of how you'd look at something sort of under a microscope. So my mum helped with this. She cut the glass, painted it and put them in the kiln, and then I added the crochet. So it's a nice mother-daughter odd project for us. But it really pushed things on that. So I realised how much footfall the hospital gets as well. Not just patients, not just doctors, but loads of people go there for lots of different reasons. And it started lots of interesting conversations. So that was great. And this is one of my proudest things. This is a close-up of an anatomical heart in a glass dome. So there was an old glass dome over the top of it. And this was an open call for anatomy-inspired art to be in one of my favourite places, which is the Old Anatomy Museum at Edinburgh University. It's a wonderful place. They're open about once a month, in non-pandemic times. It's fantastic. History of medicine, it's great. And to be there, a place I like to visit, and it's really famous in Edinburgh and across any medical places, was wonderful. So my heart was nestled in amongst the old specimens and wax models, and that was fantastic. And it was even a few meters away from my favourite serial killer, murderer, William Burke, which Edinburgh people all know that story. So that was wonderful for me. Hopefully other people liked it too. Okay, so what I've been doing much more recently is really focusing on science-inspired crochet. So I've been doing a lot more microbiology recently, and I love why I love that and why I'm doing quite a lot of it is I love the idea of taking something hidden. Same with the heart, with the organ, something hidden away or something so tiny and microscopic that you can't see it. Taking those things and making them huge in the case of microbiology, or just visible and vibrant. So I want people to go, oh, is that what syphilis looks like? Whoa. And, oh, I'll have some syphilis for my partner's Christmas. Excellent. That did happen last year, and it makes me so happy when people say that. This sort of thing. So so the idea is, yeah, there's a lot of artistic license taken with the form, the colour. I can just go mad, which is great because I love colour. And the fact that these things wouldn't be grown this way in a lab. You would never see this of even microscopically, but it's a way of communicating it. Petri dishes are recognisably sciencey things. People understand what they're looking at, but it makes it tactile and visible and engaging, hopefully. And I am increasingly more and more interested in how science can be communicated to the public generally, and I think the pandemic has thrown up a lot of this, but also particularly how art can help with this. And recently I've started a master's in public health at Bangor Uni. So I'm looking forward to kind of channeling my work in conjunction with that and seeing how I can sort of use art to get across more health, medical, science messages. So, and I have got I meant to say that earlier, I have got a science background that I kind of neglected for about 10 years. So it's I think through the work, it's reignited the interest in the science, and the kind of bound together and linked together now. So I'm enjoying that. Okay, and I think, final slide. So I just want to say, diolch am rando. Thank you for listening.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Laura. Thank you very much. Thank you. We've got a couple of things coming through now. So Bex has said, love your work as always, Laura.
Oh, thank you.
And we've had a few saying amazing from Susan.
Oh, thank
and
you.
Then Peter Lewis has asked, do you have any favourite artists? But I'll open that up to everyone else afterwards. But for you to begin with.
Oh, I must do, because I love loads of things. I'm very visual, and I have got on the other side. It's just a wall of pictures, which I don't think you can see. Can you see that my other wall is just kind of yeah. This is my study, so I can do whatever I like in it. Well, I quite like, and I think I've never got away from like childhood things that me and my mum liked, because I still love pre-Raphaelites, even though I make weird stuff myself. I still love like Victorian painters and all the weird opium-obsessed stories that go with them. Modern people, I like a lot of things that I can't do. So I like a lot of ceramicists. Applied art, I like a lot of applied art. Ceramicists, other textile artists. I have the crochet guru, Kate Jenkins. I love her. She does amazing crochet foods, which is one of the reasons I think I've started to veer away from foods, because she does it so beautifully, and they really are elevated. So it's really inspiring, because I've seen her things in the old Storyell, beautiful kind of framed boarhead feasts, and they were like £3,000, and people will pay that. And I like the fact she elevates crochet, in particular, crochet knitting, to what people regard as proper art. So I suppose I've got a lot of influences, but she is most relevant, where I think she's done so much to make you believe that people will take it seriously. You can do a lot and you can sell it. You can be taken seriously. I love lots of art.
Thank you. And then I'll open that question to the other two. So Gwen and Anna, who would you say are your favourite artists, if you have one? Any?
Yeah, well, I definitely have two have been the most influenced. One is a British artist called Kenneth Martin, who died about 30 years ago. But he did a lot with chance. His late paintings, he did a lot of chance paintings, and he'd use graph paper, and but they had a lot of movement in them. He was great. And the other favourite artist is Agnes Martin, who was a Canadian American. Yeah, so she lived to be about 94, and she did very big, very simple paintings, but very beautiful, very like horizontal. I guess most people have heard of Agnes Martin. Yeah.
Thank you. And then Anna, have you got favourite artists or inspirational artists?
Well, this is like my worst nightmare of a question, because like if somebody asks me what kind of music I like or anything, I like so much music, but if somebody asks me a question, it's like all the names absorbed from your head and you have no idea, and then you just sound clueless. So the only one I can think of right now, because there are loads, especially young people and people that I've been studied with in the past as well, that you follow their journey on social media and things like that. A lot of those people inspire me too. But I'd say an artist that's always inspired me would be Robert Rauschenberg, which again is along the collage sides and things.
Yeah, I like him as well. It's good. Thank you. Okay, so we've had a few more questions. Bex has asked to you, Laura, would you work on a large scale installation again if you got the opportunity?
Yeah, definitely, because I enjoyed it so much. It just I was trying to work out how much I could physically crochet to cover the space, which is why there's like arcs of water. And then I was getting the chunkiest wool possible and like the thinnest So yeah, I'd have to be careful how I could do it. But yeah, and I am working on something at the moment, although it's going to be quite small. But it is, it's quite a small installation, but it's something for next year. A paid public art commission that's been a little bit delayed by the pandemic. But that's an exciting thing to do with myths and history and medicine. That's what I'm doing. I'm not sure if that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but that is what I'm doing. So that's nice, and someone's giving me money for it, so that's always good. So there'll be a bit of excitement next year about that, and something a bit different. It's not fully medical, it's sort of historical, Carnarvon-y sort of stuff. I suppose the answer is yes, I'd love to do different things. I kind of imagine maybe a wall of petri dishes in a hospital somewhere. I quite like to do more like art in hospitals, well-being, something where you could, whether it's abstract things in petri dishes or just, you'll never run out of bacteria or viruses or parasites. So that I could have a wall somewhere of beautiful looking things, and then people go, ugh, tuberculosis. Although that's quite pretty, so it should be fine. Yes is the short answer.
Thank you. Because you know the one you did for Castell, how long did that take you to create every aspect of it?
Oh, ages. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and there was lots of different processes, like the sticking your hands in the goo, but then there was a lot of finishing for those hands and painting. The brushes took quite a long time. I mean, it all took a while, and I did get like sore hands by the end. But it was quite stretched out, to be honest. I didn't have too short a time scale. I've got a lot of buckets in the attic now, and I never know whether to give them to people. They're hand attached. A couple left out. Sometimes I find a cat curled up in one of them, which is quite disrespectful. And the rest are packed up in the attic. And one day I think I'll do something with those random hands, but I haven't yet. But crochet is really time consuming, which is why it's so frustrating that people say, and I'm not complaining, but I think some definitely art forms are taken a lot more seriously. And because like Yanan could do it, I mean, she may not make weird body organs, but you're like, well, in theory, we could all say that about every art form, but it is a thing that I come back to all the time with, particularly crocheting and knitting, even more than other textiles. I don't really know what the question was now. I've just gone off on this. But anyway, there was something, a train of thought that happened a minute or two ago. I don't know what it was. Anyway, that's a good point though. I don't know what I was going to say.
You got off.
That's an important point. Please take textile art seriously. Oh yeah, no, it was about timing. Everything takes a lot longer, so people look at things and go, oh, they cost that much. And you're like, there's a lot, and I'm using much better yarns now, like hand-dyed yarns that I feel I can justify for all these microbes, because it's much more interesting and textured to fit in a tiny space. But crocheting, there's no shortcuts. Like even with knitting, you can have a knitting machine. There's no way around crocheting. Every stitch has to be done by hand, and it's tiny. So I think everything takes a lot longer. So sometimes I wish I was good at painting and I could just do something huge and slosh it around. I know it's not that simple, but I'd like to work on a big scale, and it's time consuming with crochet.
Yeah, well, kudos to you. I can't do knitting or crocheting at all and answer that, so I bow down to you for that. Okay, we've had a few more questions. So from Loaded Roberts, Laura, brilliant presentation and very interesting. Your work is truly unique. Do you have any future projects in mind, which you may have answered already? And are there any other subjects you would like to cover?
The future project, there is something coming up, and I've talked about that. I think I feel like I've found my thing at the moment, and especially because it's going alongside the what I'm doing at uni. I feel like I've sort of come back to something I was really interested in and left sort of medical and healthcare side. So I just want to do more with this really. One day I'll get bored. I get bored quite easily, or go off at tangents every 10 years or so. But I feel like I've actually found my thing, both the medium and the subject. So I'm just going to pursue that in different ways. But yeah.
Thank you. And we've had a message from Kiki asking if you'd be interested in hand spun yarns. I don't know if she's offering some there. Or...
I mean, yeah, we could definitely talk about that. Let's swap something. Definitely, because I realise hand spun, even hand dye, but hand spun especially, it's the textures. I love different textures. So and that's something that sort of links back to Gwen's in a really, in some way, although it seems a bit tenuous, about different patterns, about different textures, things, interesting things happening, whether it's 2D, although it kind of looks 3D with Gwen's things, or whether it's literally 3D in terms of wool. Yes, I love the textures, and the smaller I go, the more important it is, or the better I get at these. The more texture, the more kind of difference in the yarn is important. So maybe definitely interested.
Thank you. And then we've got one from Anthony. He says, the macro influence in the work is clear and visualised meticulously. Why is colour such an appeal considering the darkness of the source influence? And is there a specific fairy tale or myth that sets you on your path?
Oh, that's a nice, that's quite a meaty question. I like it. I don't see, I mean, okay, I do realise, and I have done a bit of set dressing, because normally I have a lot of folders and things like uni work and stuff behind me. I have done a little bit of set dressing. There's I can't really see the top. It does look macabre. But I don't really see my work as that dark. I like a sinister edge, but I think anything to do with anatomy is so common to all of us. It's what we all look like inside. I mean, maybe not quite what the spin I put in it, but it's common to all of us. It's the most natural thing. To know more about your body is the most enlightening thing. And the dark fairy tale, I suppose that is quite dark, but they've got a soft, sweet edge. Same with the food. It's all cocktails and cakes and things that look sweet, even if there's a sinister style to them. I don't see it as dark, although I do quite like dark things. I like sweetness or things that are fascinating with a dark edge. What was the rest? What was the other bit at the end? I feel there was another bit and I can't see it.
It said, sorry, it's because I've got rid of it. Is there a specific fairy tale or myth that's set?
Oh, yeah. I knew there was something I really liked the sound of in there. Well, I think, and it is what's on my logo as well, which you can't see anywhere in my presentation, but my logo is a sort of little Red Riding Hood figure. And I love my logo. I've tried to get a brand name because I've had 2 or 3 before that I've moved away from. But this one I thought it would apply to anything because it felt quite fundamentally me. Little Red Riding Hood. I like that. And I remember saying to my auntie when I picked my brand name years ago, it's going to be Lost in the Wood. Not Lost in the Woods, which I always get, but someone had already, some rubbish band that had split up but bought all the rights or had secured the name on Facebook and websites, had already had that name. So I routinely get marked at craft fairs as Lost in the Woods, Lost in the Wood, but only for that reason. My auntie said, oh, that's a shame. You sound like you're a bit sad and lonely and lost, like literally like, oh, that's a shame, like just wandering the woods. I was like, oh no, I see it more as you've wandered off for an adventure. What are you going to find? It's exciting and you know, no, not dangerous, but that's how I saw it. But she did view it as that's a bit pathetic, which I hadn't thought of. Little Red Ranger is great, but what I'm more influenced at the moment is myth. So I love Circe, the myth, the stories about Circe. I've just read a great book called Circe, a great fiction book, Madeline Miller's Circe. So now I'm thinking about that a lot, and my thing that I'm working on for this public piece of art to be shown in Carnarvon next year does have a sort of link back to Circe and myths and witches, that sort of thing. So I suppose it's got lots of things going on. The story, not necessarily my piece, but yeah, I love a lot of dark stories like that. But yeah, Greek myths. I love Greek myths. I grew up in them and I still love them. Crazy things happen. There's a lot of witches and powerful women. So yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, looking forward to seeing what comes out of that public project.
I hope it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. And then we've got a comment from Rita who says, sorry she hasn't said anything till now, but she's really enjoying seeing and hearing all the work that's been seen, and asking, have you seen Joanna, I can't say that name, Vasconcelos in the Yorkshire Sculpture Park? Sorry if I got that name wrong.
I don't know if I have. I've been to Yorkshire Sculpture Park, but only on a slightly fleeting visit last year. So I'm not sure whose works. Do you know, Mena? Or does anyone know that can say? Because I do. Oh, you know who I really do love, and I don't know if she's anything like Joanna, is Laura Ford, who's a Welsh artist who does like the weeping girls bronzes that you find in the woods. She's done fantastic installations. She was in the Edinburgh version of Yorkshire Sculpture Park, Jupiter Artland, and she's got like weeping girls and you find in the forest. She's one of my favourite artists. She's so exciting. I don't know who, I will look it up afterwards. I'm not knowing anyway.
Okay, thank you. And then Anthony's just said an inner goth, although a vibrant one, in response.
Maybe. I've never self-identified, but I do like a lot of the same creepy stuff, I suppose. And I love colourful clothes, so I can disguise my weirdness with them by looking quite sweet and jolly. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right. Does anybody else have anything to ask the panelists or have any comments? Rita's just given us a link to that person in the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, so I'll send that on to you.
Okay,
Laura.
I'll have a good look. Thank you.
But yeah, I don't know if any of the panelists have got anything else to say about Laura's work or got any questions. But otherwise, in the meantime, I'm going to stop recording. So thank you. Thank you very much.